Hi, everyone. I'm Gertie, and welcome to another episode of Talk Gertie to Me. So, I have a very special guest today. This is Maddie from Madalynne Intimates.
Hello.
And of course, we also have Elvira and Millie here with us. So, I'm so excited that you're here, first
I'm
of all,
excited
Maddie.
as well.
Thank you for making the journey from Philadelphia to come to the Charm studio. So tell us a little bit about yourself. We were talking, and we have really similar career paths, and we've kind of been doing this for around the same amount of time. So you started as a blogger, just like me.
Yep. Around
Okay.
2006.
Okay.
So that was I don't even think Instagram was out then.
No,
No.
no, we were pre-Instagram.
Yes. Yeah. No algorithm. It was all blogs. People commented. Commenting was a huge thing as far as the blogging world.
Yeah, the children today don't understand.
No.
You were saying earlier that that's how you knew a blog was popular, was the amount of comments, because people would actually go to individual blogs and comment on them.
Oh, I remember if a new blog post would pop up on my RSS feed, I'd be I have
Stop
to go
everything
and comment. Sally has to see my comment. I'd be the first commenter on this.
It was a different time.
Mm-hmm.
It was a different time.
For sure.
So what was your blog about?
It first started off, it was a really, really, really terrible fashion blog. And that was I was into sewing, but I was I'm going to be a fashion blogger and would post about what people presented at New York Fashion Week. And I was I'm not into this. This is me trying to be cool and I'm really not. And then I started sewing and my dad was you should really write about what you're sewing. And it really, again, it went back to comments. I found the sewing community online from people commenting on my sewing projects.
Right.
I use simplicity or a Vogue pattern, and they would say oh, that's so cool. It's what fabric did you use or what zipper or whatever. So I really enjoyed connecting because sewing is such a solitary hobby. We sew by ourselves, but to find this community that you can kind of geek out over online was so cool. And I really loved it and really just connected with a lot of sewers online that I'm still connected with.
I know. There was that original blog crew, and a lot of us are still doing it and still talk to each other, which is really amazing.
I think we were the influencers before the influencers.
I think so too. So the other thing we have in common is that we both had our own lines at Simplicity. Well, mine was at Butterick first, and then they moved it to Simplicity. So tell us a little bit about how that started for you.
So I started sewing lingerie when I was working at Urban Outfitters corporate. And as part of my category, I was in tech design. I was responsible for handling lingerie for one of their brands, Anthropologie. And when I was looking at it, I was if I'm really going to understand this and tell the manufacturer how to make this, I should make a bra by myself. And so I did, and I was wow, this is challenging. I made dresses and jackets at the point. I was this is its own challenge. And I really just kind of threw myself head in as a technical challenge to just learn more and more about the fabrics and underwires and elastics. And I was working with a company that was hiring teachers to put on workshops, painters and crafters and crocheting, and they had asked me to do a sewing workshop. And I remember we went through the whole spiel of our basic 101 sewing workshop that we were going to make or that we were going to do. And they just asked me, what are you sewing personally? And I said, well, I'm making this bra. And they were stop right there. Valentine's Day is in 4 weeks. This is going to be our workshop. Let's scrap the 101. So I started teaching workshops out of my studio, and the Simplicity happened because one of the people who worked at corporate in Simplicity attended one of my workshops. And on her way out, she just did this quick oh, hey.
By the way,
I work for Simplicity. And I was wait, this should have been in your intro. This should not have been in your exit. And she asked me if I want to do a sewing pattern for them. And 3 months went by. I said yes. 3 months went by. I heard nothing. And then just got an email one day hey, would we, so-and-so attend your workshop. Do you want to do a a sewing pattern for us?" And I said, "Yeah, it's about time. I was waiting to hear from you." And that was how the first Simplicity pattern came out. And it's really just been an evolution since.
Right. So was that your first pattern that you designed yourself?
I think I had like one pattern, like PDF pattern beforehand,
Right.
like the bare bralette, but the one that we came out with was an underwire bra
Okay.
and like a more advanced bralette.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like I learned to design patterns through working with Butterick in a way. That was like where I trained.
Yes.
Right. And now we both have. So the other thing we have in common is that we both have sewing pattern Patreons.
Yes.
Right. So tell us a little bit about your Patreon.
So I started my Patreon last year, and it's very fit focused, whereas Gertie is very much about patterns and coming out with a new pattern every month and doing sew-alongs. Because of lingerie and the challenges that go with it, not that's a bad thing, but just like there's a lot that goes with it. We do patterns mostly seasonally, and then we do like a deep dive into the fit. And what I really love about the sew-alongs and like the virtual classes that go along with each pattern is we have a lot of fit case studies where I will work with people, Patreon members, to, if the underwire doesn't fit, switching out the underwire or using different fabric for skin sensitivities. And most of the Patreon members are really generous and willing to share their fit journey with like as a Patreon post. And I feel like people really appreciate seeing that fit on a body versus like, if you have drag lines here, hypothetically, do this. So I really enjoy that and we also do a lot of variations of patterns. So the Fiona bra being an example, we'll do like, if you want to make it into a bodysuit, we have like a bodysuit freebie for Patreon.
Okay.
So we kind of just do a deep dive into patterns.
Right.
Which I really enjoy because it's like, it's very intense, but it's like that good intense.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like Patreon is such a good platform for doing expansions, like you said, on patterns that are already existing in your archive.
Yeah, and also like a safe place too to share,
yeah.
especially with lingerie. You post something on Instagram, you don't know who's going to see it.
Right.
Whereas Patreon is like a very safe way for people to talk about lingerie, show lingerie, and not feel weird about who might be seeing it.
Right.
Their job might see it, or they're applying for medical school, they might see it.
I love that. So do you have a Discord too, or is everyone like posting on your Patreon community?
I really just ask for their permission.
Yeah.
Like, can I share this? If they reach out to me, like, if you're willing, would you be willing to share this with the Patreon community?
Yeah.
And I'll write a blog post for them and kind of, and that way too, like they kind of share it too. They'll comment and be like, oh, like so-and-so, like I went through this, or I feel like people really connect that way, which for me is really important that on Patreon, like the community connects with each other versus it just being sort of like a random place with just different people. I want you guys to connect as well and become like sewing besties.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like on my Patreon, that's been a really amazing thing that's come out of it, is that people are like talking to each other and forming like real life friendships where they're like going to Disneyland together. And like, it's really sweet.
Yeah.
So obviously my Patreon is very vintage focused. We've done a little bit of lingerie. We get a ton of requests for lingerie, especially because vintage lingerie is so amazing. So do you use vintage pieces as inspiration? And if so, like what's the process sort of translating that inspiration to something that's accessible for a home sewist in 2026?
I use vintage lingerie as a main source of inspiration. A lot of the details that went into vintage lingerie were just beautiful. One detail, as an example, was a vintage corset that had trapunto stitching on the cups with foam cups. And so we use that detail in our Monet Merry Widow corsets.
I love that pattern.
Yeah,
It's so pretty.
It's definitely a labor of love, but it is one of those.
Yeah, to be clear, I have not made it.
Yes.
I just love looking at your images.
It's
for it.
beautiful to look at. And I really love that detail, and I think it's a nod to vintage lingerie. Another detail on the Monet is the waist. It's like an adjustable waistband, which just helps cinch the waist a little bit and just bring a little bit more focus onto that waist. The biggest thing that I try to update with vintage lingerie to 2026 is the fabrics, because a lot of the fabrics and elastics that were used back in the 1950s, 1960s, they one, weren't as comfortable. And two, a lot of it didn't stretch. So a lot of the fabrics today have done a really good job to combine that comfort with support, which really going back to the vintage lingerie is they didn't have the spandex. They did kind of, but like there's just been so many advancements that even if it stretched, it was like that firm stretch that was not comfortable. So I try to incorporate some really soft but supportive fabrics and elastics with those designer or those vintage details to kind of update it to 2026.
I love that. Yeah, I found like one of the main challenges when I have dabbled in lingerie, we've done swimwear here too, is like trying to find a fabric that will mimic that vintage fabric, like lastex. You know, I talk about this all the time, like vintage swimsuits made from lastex, and you just cannot find the same thing today. So you have to kind of reimagine what it would be.
And it might be a good thing, because a lot of the fabrics, especially for swimwear, weren't sun, chlorine, or like salt
minor
resistant.
details.
So I'm like, they were beautiful, but like, give it one season, it's like disintegrating. Whereas the fabric technology, like now
has advanced so much.
So much. Where like the prints stay vibrant year after year, season after season. And that's what you really want. You want it to work. If you're going to sew it, you want it to last several seasons.
Right.
So I feel like those are we would still replicate that print, but we would put it in a newer fabric that actually performed a lot better.
Right. That makes sense. So speaking of fabric and supplies, I feel like a lot of people find the process of like sourcing supplies intimidating, and I'm including myself in this because you have to have so many different, like 3 different types of elastic and the underwire and the rings and the sliders, and they all have to be a specific size. And I think probably a lot of times people get overwhelmed and quit before they even start with lingerie. And I know that one thing that you do is sell kits.
Yes.
Right? So do you have people struggle with that, with all the different types of materials?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the DIYer, us included, loves that, like, no, I don't want to buy a kit. I want to buy everything.
Do it myself.
I want to do it myself. I want to buy my own elastics. I'm going to make it as hard as possible and buy one from Etsy and one from so-and-so and pay extra shipping. But I highly recommend that to avoid that urge. And at least when you're first starting, to get a kit, because it familiarizes you with the widths, with the types of elastic, and you get everything in coordinating colors too.
Right.
Because one shop might say it's powder blue, but another shop might say it's, light blue, and getting those two together. And I know that color is a huge thing. That if one doesn't match the other, it's a big deal.
And then you go crazy and you're like, well, I'll just custom dye. I'll buy everything white and I'll custom dye it. Like, we've gone down that.
Yes. And I'm like,
here in the studio.
Have you ever heard us working smarter, not harder?
Here, no, we've not heard of that.
Yeah. So I highly recommend, if you're just getting into it, at least just get a DIY kit for the first couple of projects. And then, if you want to buy something separately, you at least know what to get.
Right. That makes so much sense. So we were talking earlier and you said one thing that people often struggle with in lingerie sewing is you have stretch fabrics and then you have rigid fabrics. And where can you use stretch and where are you supposed to use rigid? So tell us a little bit more about that.
When you get like a DIY kit or a Madalynne DIY kit, or you read any lingerie sewing pattern, you might see like 4 or 5 different fabrics. Whereas if you're sewing a dress, you basically have like one fabric and one lining.
Right.
So with lingerie, it's like, wait, I'm supposed to use this on the cups, this on the frame, and this on the back, and then this is supposed to go on top of this one. So I get that a lot of those questions. A really simplified way to think about it, and this is, you have to put a grain of salt with this because it's not 100% of the time, but you generally want the front of your bra or panty to be stabilized. So you can use a stretch fabric or rigid fabric, and if you use a stretch fabric, you want to line it with something that's rigid so that the front is stabilized, non-stretch. But you want the back to be stretchy. Right. So you'll use the stretch mesh, the power net in the back band or the butt of a panty to allow for movement. Right. And that really is the biggest difference between corsets and lingerie. And lingerie is an evolution of corsets. Right. Is that in corsets, it was non-stretch all the way around. And in lingerie, we incorporated spandex fabric to make it a little bit more comfortable. But the key to having that comfortability is having the stretch in the back that allows you to move. But if you have non-stretch in the front, it supports the weight of the breast. It also tucks in the tummy a little bit, and that's where you get your support.
Got it. That makes so much sense. Yeah, and also means that you can actually like, as opposed to vintage lingerie, you can just like pull your undergarments on as opposed to like having to like button or like hook and eye your panties on, which now sounds crazy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like a struggle.
Yeah. Okay, so we're really excited because we have a collaboration coming up. So Maddie designed a panty for Charm Patreon members. So when you got in touch with us, I was so excited to talk about the possibilities here. And you designed something really special. We're calling it the Charm Panty. So the Charm Panty pattern is going to be released on June 15th. So it will be for the bonus tiers. So the process was really fun. You kind of like, we do vintage here and talked a little bit about what we would want, and you gave us a few options, but you came up with something really special. It's very high-waisted, which I love. I want my panties to come up basically to my bra.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
The higher the better is my motto.
The higher the better. And these are like true high-waisted.
Yeah.
My pet peeve is when like a high-waisted panty doesn't actually come to like
your waist,
the indentation in your waist. How dare they? It's offensive.
Abomination.
It's an abomination. So they're really beautiful. Speaking of all the different fabrics, they have like a really beautiful lace and then a gingham spandex.
Yeah, I think it's like a gingham is such a classic pattern. And then we really updated it with a really fun blue, which is a really vibrant blue too for the kits. It's like a really, it has like navy blue and then the vibrant blue and then elastics as well, matching elastics. And then I think is like the cream of the crop, or like the cherry on top, is the pineapple charm that goes with it.
I love that little pineapple.
Like I love a little detail.
It's so freaking cute. So I'm very excited about these. And you also surprised me with a matching bra that you sewed for me.
Yes.
So tell us about the bra pattern.
It's our Fiona bra pattern, which is one of the most size-inclusive bra patterns that are available in the sewing community world. It's available in band sizes 28 to 46 and cup sizes A through N, which you're probably thinking like, wait, there's such thing as an N cup? Yeah, there is. And it's a 4-part bra cup, so the more seams that you have, the more volume you can accommodate. And it has a vertical omega underwire, which is a great underwire for small bands, full busts, but it also can use a classic underwire as well.
I've never heard that before. What is a vertical omega underwire?
So if you think about underwires as a U shape, right?
Yes.
So some U's are a little bit wider.
Okay.
And then some U's are a little bit narrower.
Okay.
So a lot of times, and I feel like this is the not problem, but things that come up in grading is that you grade on an even scale. And what I have found through fitting, generally speaking, is that the narrower someone is with more projection, or the smaller the band with more projection, the narrower underwire they need.
Okay.
And then as it gets bigger, there's actually less projection and it gets wider. So like as you get bigger, it's usually more of a classic underwire, a wider underwire.
Okay.
And then as your smaller bands, it's more narrower, more projection.
This is like engineering.
It is. But also knowing those intricacies.
Yes.
That as normally a body gets bigger, how does it get bigger? Because a computer grades it off of an assumption, but unless you know how, weight and skin and fat is distributed from someone who's smaller to someone who's bigger, also across different ethnicities too, because usually somebody who is a different ethnicity might have heavier breast tissue versus someone who is different. So I feel like just again knowing those intricacies. It's very hard for me to say that word.
And yet you keep going for it, which I really admire.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it one time.
You feel like I've got this.
Really makes a bra that fits.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think we deal with that at Charm in grading clothes. Like one of my pet peeves about grading in like the commercial fashion world is that it seems like graders think that like the bigger the size is, you just keep getting incrementally taller. No. So we really don't grade we don't continue to grade height-wise, because I'm like, why would someone be
You get
like
bigger this
6
way.
inches taller just because they're like a 16 as opposed to a 2. It makes no sense whatsoever. So I love that you're thinking about those things and like the way that bodies get bigger or smaller.
Yes.
So I know a common question we get here at Charm is people have a hard time figuring out what size to make. And you said you have a similar thing with lingerie. So using maybe like the Charm Panty as an example, like how do people decide? And like we talked a little bit about like fit being such a personal preference.
I think step one is to always look at the size chart and not assume that someone's size chart is the size that you always wear.
Right. Okay. Love that.
And then to take into consideration, how do I like my panties or bra to fit? Do I like it to be a little bit tighter? Do I like it to be a little bit looser? Because I know everybody has a different fit preference. And if you are somebody who likes things a little bit looser, size up. If you like things a little bit tighter, size down. And if you're on the cusp of one versus the other, I would say make the larger size and then make it a little bit smaller if needed.
Right. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Now, what do you think about these sort of like this is a like totally curveball question, but I have a lot of trouble figuring out my bra size. And I know that you do fittings, but I've found that people say like the most accurate bra fitting online is the Reddit, like a bra that fits.
Oh, yeah.
Do you swear by that, or do you have your own method, or what's your take on it?
I think that numbers are only a starting point.
Okay.
I firmly believe in that because I have done fittings and lessons with somebody who will measure a C or D cup and is literally flat chested. They're a swimmer, so they have a very wide back. So their rib cage to full bust ratio is just completely off.
Right.
So numbers are only a starting point. Even if that person put their numbers into a bra that fits calculator, it's going to say that they're a size that they aren't.
Right.
It really comes down to I believe 2 numbers. Some bra makers want a third number, which I will get to, but usually it's your rib cage and then it's your full bust while wearing a bra that's non-padded.
Okay.
Some bra makers do want to take your high bust, and that's really for like weight distribution, whether you are like full chested versus carry your weight a little bit lower. And then you subtract one minus the other.
Okay.
So giving you an example, if you are a 30 rib cage, you take a 30 bands, and then you're 35 full bust, 30 subtracted from 35 equals 5 inches. Each inch equals a cup size.
Got it.
A cup is 1 inch, B cup is 2 inches, C cup is 3 inches, D cup is 4 inches. I think that the biggest reason why there is such a misconception around bra sizing, which most people don't know, is that the US and the UK follow a different sizing system. So a lot of UK brands cater to larger sizes, but they follow a different cup sizing.
Okay.
So using Gertie as an example, if Gertie wears a size 30G, 30G in US sizing is 2 cup sizes smaller than a UK 30G. So Gertie is going to buy her bra from a brand that follows the UK size chart, gets the bra and is like, wait, why is this 2 sizes too big?
Right.
And it's because they follow different sizing systems.
Okay.
Most people don't do that.
I also think that there is a common misconception, like we grew up around the same time, and I think like a D cup was like the biggest you could possibly, like in pop culture, right? Like it was like a D cup, like, and now like you get into like 36D, people thought was like a huge size. And now like D is like not that big. And especially it has to be compared to your band. I know that. But like a D cup, like a 30D can be actually quite small, right?
As I like to say, they're itty bitty titties. They're itty bitty because the most common size that we deal with is probably like an HIJ cup.
Right. Yeah.
Which if I told people that, they like blink and they're like, excuse me? And I'm like, most people are wearing their sister size.
Right.
So it's a bigger band with a smaller cup size.
Yeah. I definitely do that. I hate to tell you. I don't like it when anything's too tight around my rib cage.
But at the end of the day, you have to wear the bra.
Yeah.
So I can tell you that you're X size, but if you want to wear Y, you can wear Y.
Right.
It's up to you.
You can also have different bras for different occasions too,
Correct.
right? Like I have like my standard Mary Widow that I would wear for work that I probably wouldn't wear for lounging at home, right? Yeah, you can make these choices like you're saying, fit preferences.
Exactly.
Okay, so final thing I want to say is that Thank you so much, first of all, for
Thank
doing this.
you.
It's so fun having you here. I'm so excited for the Charm Panty pattern to come out June 15th. And you're going to be selling kits
Yes.
on your site that correspond to the panty pattern.
Correct.
Okay.
And if you sign up for Madalynne's Patreon, you get a discount.
I love that. Yeah. And everyone should be in both of our Patreons. So
I think they complement each other very well.
I agree. Well, you've really inspired me. I now want to like sew more bras.
I got you, girl.
Yeah, you might. I have to like FaceTime you, but yeah, I want to do it.
We'll get through it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again, Maddie,
Thank you.
for coming to visit us. And I'm so excited for you all to see this new pattern.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll see you next time. Goodbye.